Storytelling is about immersion. There's many ways a book, a movie, or a video game can pull you in, but what's most important is that the illusion is never broken. What's the illusion, you ask? The illusion is the world you are experiencing and learning about, fooling you into believing it's real. I had a moment of immersion recently. I met a girl, a lady, no, a woman. She has this smile and this voice, this pair of eyes that lulled me in. I spoke at great lengths with her about everything and anything, so long as there was no moment of silence between us, for I didn't want to get caught staring for no reason. It's okay to stare into someone's eyes after all when you're talking to them, but another thing entirely to stare in silence. I didn't realize it, but I was immersed in a little world that we had created for ourselves, surrounding us in a cloak of silence that only our two voices could break. Her laugh, her smile, her finger wrapping strands of hair around its tip. We sank into discussion, and the deeper we went, the harder it got to see the light above us. There was suddenly no way out of this conversational hole that I had dug, and when she called me arrogant, I snapped from the illusion, and the world around me broke the trance. The bar was suddenly louder, her voice much harder to hear, and the band butchering the hits of the 70s and 80s was so much more prevalent in my mind. So I took her hand in mine, and in my mind I agreed with her, but I didn't dare say it out loud. Maybe I was arrogant, but I wanted to feel that trance again, and for the first time in my adult life, I found myself wanting to be what another person wanted me to be. And I've been immersed in various media throughout my years, but none more than video games. I remember booting up Mass Effect for the first time and seeing that intro and the character creation screen and feeling so utterly invested in the world, from the camera work, the lighting, the voice acting, down to every little detail the game threw at me. Again, I was in love, but this time with a game, right? My first experience with Mass Effect Andromeda was a strange one. I had seen a lot of bad coverage about this game, and despite everything, I really wanted it to be good. Man, I even had a video planned on groupthink to describe what I was feeling about how everybody was jumping on the bandwagon to hate this game, and I figured it was some misguided anti-SJW crap, as everybody was blaming outrage and PC culture for the failure of this game, and I rarely listen to that kind of thing. I like to form my own opinions based on what I can prove, you know? So I went into this game with high hopes because, as many people in the comment section will tell you, I hate being wrong. But man, was I wrong. So if I'm going to get into some in-depth review of this game, let's take a look at the first hour of gameplay, and in particular how Mass Effect handles something as seemingly innocuous as character creation and manages to screw that up as well. So let's dig in, shall we? First off, this UI is terrible. I mean, in most games, when you click on something, it becomes automatically selected as your choice. I mean, that's intuitive, but on the custom character preset screen, Andromeda opts for something much more obscure, like double-clicking. Yes, like you would do in Windows, you know, to open a folder. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how confusing this is, given that all of my years of experience is contrary to this. Or you could opt between two even more confusing options: select or confirm. Don't they mean the same thing? Like, at a glance, it's pretty hard to tell what does what, you know? But like everything in this game, you have to screw around before you understand how it works. See, unlike in most English games developed by English-speaking folks, here, the confirm button is actually a back button. I don't understand that. I mean, this is just the start of the UI troubles. On a live stream, I nearly lost my mind trying to figure out why I couldn't make a white guy. I mean, I'm a white guy playing a role-playing game as a human, right? It's not like I'm playing a dwarf or an elf or something else. I'm playing a human. I probably want to play as somebody that looks like me, or as close to how as I can get them to look like me, you know? That's just how I roll, you know? I had to go online to see what I was doing wrong, and I was amazed that little things like this weren't caught in testing. Or maybe I'm just an idiot. I don't know. Also, these have to be some of the most unappealing characters I think I've ever seen, but that's nothing new. Mass Effect custom characters had this problem as well, but to a lesser degree. And the difference is that in the older titles, you can make your character almost completely customized. You can make somebody who looks pretty damn close to you. Now I want to ask, why are you so creepy? I mean, the animations in this game are bad, just objectively bad, but I don't think it's for the reasons that most people are saying. You see, there are two schools, in my opinion, in animation. There's the exaggerated school, you know, typically seen in cartoons and realistic, typically seen in a game like Mass Effect. One would think that Andromeda would have opted for the realistic style, but to be honest, they didn't seem to go that way. They seem to instead go for the cartoony style of exaggerated emotions. This isn't to say that this was their intention, of course. I think this is a side effect of an animator and a director who don't know how to act, or didn't have enough time to really QA stuff. I mean, most people don't know this, but in most well-rounded animation schools, there are classes called acting for animators. When animating a character, it's often helpful to act out a scene to see how your character will act. It is obvious to me then that these animators did not bother to act out these scenes, or did and just didn't understand things like creepy smiles not being something you do when you find out your dad just died. The other problem here is tonal. See, Mass Effect is a dark, grim story. It's akin to Blade Runner in style and Ender's Game in substance. Therefore, it makes absolutely no sense to reboot a beloved classic game such as this and use a tongue-in-cheek, snarky kind of style. The tone is so out there that it's in this grim and desperate time that when whole arcs are going missing and thousands of lives have possibly ended, our characters have time to crack jokes like they're in a Naughty Dog game about finding treasure and not violating any long-held copyrights from a well-known archaeologist. Yeah, Mass Effect Andromeda, you aren't Uncharted. You can't pull off that tone of story. Sorry. It just doesn't work here, so stop smiling at me. Seriously, fucking stop! Dialogue wheels. Alright, these dialogue wheels give me fucking fits. Like today, when I was writing this, I shit my pants. I have a feeling it's because these dialogue wheels are causing me digestive problems, maybe even a pervasive form of cancer. Most of the time, when you pick a dialogue choice, what you pick and what your character actually says aren't even close to one another. You have two dialogue choices here in this example. I can't lose her, and what's the prognosis? I clicked what's the prognosis, and he says,
when can she wake up?
How is that even close to the same thing I picked? I'm thinking I'm gonna ask, is she okay? Is she injured? Is she gonna survive? Anything specific to asking what her prognosis is, not when can she wake up. Now, we've gone over dialogue wheels before, so I won't riff on this too much, but this is the worst I have ever seen a dialogue wheel act in a Mass Effect game. It's just ridiculous. They are regressing, not progressing in this area. And this is also the first hint to me that the dialogue was going to be bereft of passion, and I had a sneaking suspicion that no matter what I said, the response was always going to be the same. Now here, in an entire section that rips control away from the player and goes on autopilot while the tram is running, you have no choice in how you respond, and the dialogue just goes on without your input. Once again, control is ripped away from you, as well as your ability to roleplay. I mean, I have spent the first 10 to 15 minutes creating a character, making him look the way I want him to look, saying the things that I want him to say, or at least trying the hardest that I could to make him say the things I want him to say. And here you are taking control away from me completely and role-playing the character for me. Whenever my character speaks, if this is a role-playing game, the words that come out of his mouth should be the words I picked for him. That is the goddamn point of a role-playing game. Now there's another problem here, and it's indicative of a problem we see in a lot in this kind of game, which is the problem of interaction and choice. In most Mass Effect games, we're allowed to choose whether or not we get more information about the particulars of what's going on. In this particular choice, we have two choices. Is that a problem? And I did. Okay, the choice to get more information is hidden behind a vague choice. When picking the is that a problem choice, it felt nebulous and ill-defined because my brain immediately thinks that when you respond to someone with is that a problem, it's usually a rhetorical question, and your fist is usually balled up at your side ready to punch someone. But like everything in this game, the response has absolutely nothing to do with your choice, and the dialogue is delivered at a tepid room temperature. No passion, no conflict, just information. In fact, this character is a throwaway. After you hear that the Nexus thought everyone on the Ark was dead, we are taken away from him by a Turian Sec officer who then relays all the same info that we need. The question is, why the hell did we even need this guy there in the first place? Why was he there? He didn't need to be there! So are we having fun yet? I mean, the two choices we're given here are strange for a couple of reasons. Number one, they are sort of redundant. You know, it's their fault and better safe than sorry sort of convey at their base the same information, meaning we are confirming in both choices that we made the right decision. With the Paragon and Renegade session, the dialogue might look something like, we did what we had to do. We have to do better next time. Are you questioning my orders? Then we would also get some info from the wounded scout, like, hey, are you gonna be okay? What did the alien want? Do you know if the other scouts are safe? Does your radio work? Etc. The fact that these options are missing are kind of mind-boggling. I mean, does Ryder just not give two shits and a shake what the aliens want? Or if the rest of his crew are safe? What about his father? Instead, all these details are handled through something which I find incredibly annoying, auto-dialogue. It should be my choice to explore the details through dialogue choices. I find it annoying that no matter how many times I have played through this section, I will always be expected to sit and watch this cutscene, twiddling my thumbs, or skipping the dialogue by mashing space. I mean, they set up this system of personality to show you to how you can roleplay a certain type of character, a certain personality type. It's a great step in the right direction, but then they go and they undermine all of the choices you made by having your character respond most of the time to people automatically with something that you wouldn't want him to say. It's a crazy ass thing to see in a game that is supposedly an RPG. So are we having fun yet? I mean, not really. In this section, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the first hour of the game, which is a pretty good indicator of what we have to look forward to in this. As I'm about 10 hours into this game, and I'm going to tell you right now, it doesn't change from this. It's pretty much more of the same. The only way that the gameplay actually differs from here is in that the worlds open up into big, but still sort of empty worlds with the same content delivery platform we have come to expect of open world games. So let's start off with something that should be obvious. How about the fact that the Ark, a ship supposedly carrying over 20,000 people in cryosleep, is being piloted by Ray Charles? I mean, seriously, what captain would pilot their ship right into a reef of dark orange glowing death tentacles? This is the first in many logic leaps that this game takes to push the story down some artificial path, because in order to lose gravity and have that neat little cutscene, we have to have the ship artificially run into stuff, even though you can see it clearly from the bridge of the ship. There's also a lot of little things going on in this game that just chip away at the player's ability to immerse themselves in the game world. Like, look at Cora in this shot. Doesn't it look like she's smiling? Sweet creamy Jesus, who smiles like that when he just found out the world they spent 600 years asleep to get to may be uninhabitable? She looks way too calm and a little too happy, and it's creepy. Or how about, for instance, this? Is this rain? If it is rain, where's the rain coming from? I mean, it can't be rain, because if it were, it would be falling on the visor and not my character's face. So if it's not rain, then is it sweat? I mean, since when does sweat bead up this quickly? I know it may not seem like much, but it's important, okay? Because instead of paying attention to the painfully boring dialogue, I am spending so much more time staring at all these little issues, trying to figure out how they were missed and what they're trying to convey. It's just distracting as hell. And plus, these things are life support vests. They're supposed to be in high temperature, low temperatures. I imagine they have built-in air conditioning, right? Anyway, just many and the things that this game does to take you out of the experience. And the first thing that we do when we're treated to this landing is a bunch of thunder and floating rocks. All you have to do is just walk along the edge of the wall, and you could do this whole area without even trying to be careful. In fact, there's no challenge to this area at all. Now, in many games, the opening moments are busy teaching you things about mechanics and how the game works, either organically or with prompts. Now, prompts take us out of the world and remind us that we're playing a video game. We get that we should avoid lightning, organically, because it's naturally dangerous, right? But if we get shocked by it, we really have to want to get shocked by it, because it's super easy to avoid. It really isn't all that dangerous because of that. This is also no fun. I mean, why are we doing this? What does it add to the experience? Can't this game just get to the fucking point? We finally get to a section that trains us in a brand new movement ability to Mass Effect, the jump jets. The platforming section is super quick and barely gives you enough time to absorb the various ways of using the ability. Also notice that this ledge is impossible to jump unless you run up to it, then jump up. This is not a snappy or responsive way to design a level's platforming. At first glance, it looks like I should be able to jump from where I take off, but I only realize after I have jumped that I can't do that, and I must wait for my character to land before I can try the jump again. The reason is because the angle and height of the ledge, it's deceptive. When people say that a game has clunky platforming, this is probably what they mean. So much of what goes into making platforming great is in the design of the levels, making traversal snappy, responsive, and most of all fun. If I had been able to make that jump, believe it or not, I would derive some small amount of pleasure from that, but not being able to be successful gives me nothing but an opportunity to watch those awesome animations again. So this section is meant to teach us about our jump jets, right? But what about the jet dash ability? I honestly did not know that this was a thing and that I could do until I accidentally hit my middle mouse button and I dashed. Now, the missed opportunity here is that they could have spaced a platform just out of reach of the player that can only be reached by jump dashing. It's a missed opportunity, and it would have added a bit more depth to an otherwise dull as dishwater platforming section. Now, here's some more immersion breaking shit. So I can see these guys hanging out the side of a dropship, but I'm unable to shoot them. They are invincible until they jump out, and some of them just jump right through the ship. All of this breaks immersion because it's not reality. We get graphics that are trying to emulate life. We get animations that are trying to emulate reality, but so many things are just not working as they would in real life. How about quests? Now, if you don't find Greer, instead you find Cora first, which is actually more than possible, you arbitrarily fail to find Greer and cannot finish his mission. There is no reason given, and there is no way to know that finding Cora first will force you to fail the Greer mission, at least not anything obvious. If you try to go where Greer used to be, you're greeted with a blue wall of energy and a prompt that tells you to turn back. If you don't, the game will teleport you back to the opening area. Let's talk about why this is stupid. First, it's a missed opportunity. See, you're gonna make me fail the mission. Wouldn't it make more sense to allow me to see the results of my failure? Let me see Greer's dead body so that I can know that his death was a result of something I failed to do? Isn't that an infinitely better choice than not let me see it all? I mean, God forbid there be a moving scene or conflict within the group. God forbid anyone question my orders and tell me that his death was my fault when it would have actually fucking mattered. Second, invisible walls. Teleporting me back to the mission area? I mean, is this Battlefield? Is this Call of Duty? I thought this was one of those open world games where I'm supposed to be able to go anywhere and do anything. And when we meet up with our father finally, he tells us this.
It seemed more important to find the rest of the team. And you did a good job of that.
Except that we didn't do a good job. We missed someone and he most likely died. So how did we do a good job? I mean, in an RPG, if you cause the death of someone on your team, someone you were supposed to save, doesn't it feel like that should be important? Doesn't that feel like it would and should be a source of conflict between you and your father? And this points out a common problem with this game. There is no solid conflict between you and your squad mates, or even your father, really. I mean, he acts like a father giving you advice, but these inconsequential conflicts don't ever amount to anything because you're not able to respond to his criticisms. Auto dialogue takes over and the whole thing is just tossed aside. It begs the question, why even have that moment if it doesn't lead anywhere significant? This game is full of moments like that that never get fully realized. And then this. So is this Prothean tech? I mean, it has to be Prothean because Ryder is able to interact with it and make it do shit. If this is a piece of alien tech that he knew nothing about, how is he able to do anything with it? In fact, even if it was Prothean, how did he know what it would do? I mean, how did he know that he needed to turn it on to make the planet stabilize? Did Sam really translate and communicate all of that complexity to Old Ryder in that short amount of time? Did Sam know it was a Prothean artifact the moment Old Ryder saw it? Well, then that means that this technology must have existed in the Milky Way and that someone had encountered it before and documented it, because how did he know what he was looking at? If it did exist in the Milky Way, then that begs the question, why didn't Sam know it was going to blow up on him? Every time you activate one of these things, they blow up. You ever heard the saying that this plot doesn't hold water? Well, that's because there's too many holes in it. Alright, so this moment is so contrived that it barely makes any sense. Now, couldn't Old Ryder just switch helmets back and forth with his son, each of them taking a breath while he waited for the shuttle? I mean, this is the thinnest contrivance I have seen yet to kill his father and make our character the Pathfinder. I mean, it also has a very cheap way to get us to care, which it even has trouble doing that since the reason Old Ryder dies seems to be because of stupidity alone. I mean, nothing like a big gaping hole in character logic to take you out of an experience. I mean, survival, it's right at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Old Ryder should want to live, but it seems he's super ready to die, which is complete and utter nonsense. From here, the story continues, but the rest of it suffers from a beginning that did not set up the stakes. We are in an ark that is housing 20,000 people. Not only do we never see these people, but they don't even seem important to people, as no one seems in a particular rush to get anything done. Everything is so apathetic. Sometimes this game looks really good. There are moments where I am absolutely blown away by the quality of the art and even the animation. Sometimes the cinematography is stylish and brings back memories of Mass Effect 1. Unfortunately, the unevenness of presentation detracts from the good moments, because those moments are bad enough to call attention to themselves. I haven't mentioned a lot of these things here in an effort to reduce the length of this video, but there are things like the terrible UI in a journal screen, to quests untracking themselves and hiding inside a terribly named and unfortunately laid out folder system, or the fact that even though I just picked up an item, I can't equip it until I find a drop point or watch a loading screen with a ship taking off. So many bad decisions and so little time to point them all out. I'm sure that if I come back to this game later, I may have a better time with it, but without immersion, it's really hard to get invested, especially when it keeps reminding me at every turn that this is a game, not an experience. Now, I'll probably do a part 2 video if I ever plan on going through the rest of this game, which I'm not sure I can force myself to. It's just too painful. It's like a guy breaking into my house and raping my mother in front of me. I'm just watching Mass Effect lay there and take it. Hurts, man. This has been a rant from Strat-Edgy, and now that you heard it, go play some video games.